My parents hid the truth that my sister slept with my husband, leaving me shattered. Now, at her baby shower, I've prepared a gift that will expose their betrayal and ensure they never forget. Hello, everyone. For today's story, I want to start by offering a glimpse into my family, as it's the foundation for the utterly bewildering revelation I've recently encountered. I'm Ray, and honestly, my place in my family was always clearly defined, even if unspoken. I knew I wasn't the favored one. You simply feel it deep within your core. It's evident in the subtle differences. The way your parents' gaze lingers longer on your sibling, the tone in their voice, how they consistently choose them, whether in minor disagreements or major life decisions. My sister, Lisa, was perpetually the golden child, the one who effortlessly embodied perfection, basking in all the affection and recognition while I remained on the periphery. Growing up, this dynamic was undeniable. If Lisa achieved a good grade, it would be framed for all to see. If I brought home an equally good report, I'd receive a fleeting smile before the conversation inevitably shifted back to Lisa's latest triumphs. I was in essence her shadow. Yet, despite this constant overshadowing, I never harbored true hatred for her. Of course, I resented my parents for their blatant favoritism, placing her on an unreachable pedestal, but she was still my sister and I loved her. It wasn't her fault our parents treated us so differently. I held on to the belief that eventually as adults, despite the injustices of childhood, we would each find our footing and our relationship would finally achieve a semblance of balance. But I was utterly mistaken, profoundly, tragically wrong. Just 2 days prior, my world imploded. The evening was meant to be joyous. My parents had invited us for dinner to celebrate Lisa's pregnancy, a moment I genuinely felt happy for. She and her husband, Ken, had been trying for some time, and I understood how deeply she yearned to begin their own family. So I went, despite the familiar knot of dread that always tightened in my stomach around my family, a persistent reminder that I was insufficient, perpetually second best to Lisa. Ben, my husband, was by my side, a constant presence for the past 5 years. He understood the complexities of my family relationships and had always been my anchor, the one person who truly saw me, or so I believed. The dinner proceeded normally, even pleasantly. We all gathered around the table, sharing laughter and commemorating Lisa's news. My parents, predictably, radiated pride, effusively praising Lisa's pregnancy as if she had pioneered the concept of motherhood. This, however, no longer surprised me. I simply smiled, offering my congratulations, maintaining the facade of normalcy. It was later, when I overheard my parents speaking, that my entire reality shattered. After dinner, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my return, I passed the kitchen and caught the low murmur of my parents whispering. I should have simply continued on my way, but the hushed, secretive quality of their voices compelled me to stop. And that's when I heard it. My mother was saying they would never disclose anything to me about Lisa's mistake. Initially, confusion washed over me. What mistake could they be referring to? Then, the answer struck me with the force of a physical blow. They were discussing how Lisa had slept with Ben, my husband. Apparently, it had transpired months ago, and they had consciously chosen to keep it from me, all to safeguard Lisa, their precious daughter, ensuring her reputation remained untarnished. They dismissed it as a mere slip, a momentary lapse in judgment, something that should be forgiven. After all, they reasoned, the crucial thing was that she had managed to get pregnant. I stood there, paralyzed, unable to move, unable to draw a breath. The walls of the house seemed to press in around me, my mind awash with disbelief, betrayal, and a searing rage. My husband, my partner, the man I had trusted with my very life, was a deceiver, and with none other than my own sister. Even worse, my parents knew. They had actively concealed it, choosing to shield Lisa rather than reveal the truth to me. Once again, they had chosen her over me. It was as if all those years of feeling inadequate were now definitively confirmed. Their decision was made, and it wasn't for me. I have no recollection of how I exited that house that night. I vaguely remember mumbling something about feeling unwell and needing to leave. I couldn't face them. Not my parents, not Lisa, and especially not Ben. So I simply left, got into my car, and drove. I don't recall my destination. I just needed to escape, to be far from them and the devastating truth I had just unearthed. It felt as though my entire life was a cruel jest, that nothing held meaning anymore, as if I were plunging into an abyss with no way to halt the fall. It's been 2 days, and the revelation remains unprocessed. I haven't confronted anyone. I've barely exchanged words with Ben since that night. He continues to ask what's wrong, why I'm so distant, but I can't even meet his gaze, let alone speak to him. Every time I see him, my mind conjures images of him with her, my sister. How could he do this to me? How could she? And how could my parents conspire to hide it, as if it were insignificant, as if I were insignificant? I find myself replaying that conversation endlessly, hearing my parents declare that Lisa's mistake shouldn't ruin her life, that it was just a minor slip. But what about my life? My marriage? Do those not count? Do I not count? It feels as though I've been erased, relegated to a secondary character in a narrative that should fundamentally be my own. Yet somehow, it perpetually revolves around Lisa. No matter what she does, no matter how profoundly she hurts me, they will always protect her. And here I am, left to pick up the shattered fragments, striving to comprehend how to move forward when everything I once believed has been inverted. I genuinely don't know what step to take next. Should I confront Ben and demand a full confession? Or should I approach my parents and articulate the depth of their betrayal? I'm unsure who to face first. I don't even know if I possess the fortitude to confront Lisa. The mere thought of speaking with her, of hearing whatever excuse she might offer for her treachery, makes my stomach clench. Yet, I cannot continue living like this, pretending everything is all right when it emphatically is not. I cannot keep this secret internalized, allowing it to poison every thought, every moment. A part of me yearns to scream at them all, to convey the immense pain they've inflicted and the irreparable damage they've caused. But another part simply wishes to vanish, to walk away and never look back. I'm torn, unsure which impulse to obey. I question if there even is a correct choice in this situation. All I know is that I feel utterly shattered, and I have no idea how to reassemble the pieces. My entire life has been spent feeling insufficient, as if I don't matter, and now, after all this, it seems that feeling has been unequivocally validated. My parents have made it abundantly clear that Lisa will perpetually be their priority, regardless of her actions or who she harms. But where does that leave me? How do I navigate life knowing that the very people who should offer love and protection have repeatedly chosen someone else? I have no answers. I desperately wish I did. I wish I knew what to do, how to mend this, or at the very least, how to move on. But at this moment, all I feel is an overwhelming torrent of betrayal and agony, and I don't know how to make it subside. That's why I'm here, genuinely sharing this, hoping that someone, anyone, can offer guidance, because I feel like I'm disintegrating, and I don't know how to prevent it. I understand that from an external perspective, opinions come easily, and that's precisely what I seek. But from within, it's an all-consuming despair. Update 1. More than 2 weeks have passed since my initial plea, granting me time to reflect, to feel, and to strategize. Initially, I was immobilized by the anguish, bewilderment, and profound betrayal. However, that numbness has gradually receded, replaced by something cold, sharp, and far more perilous. My first instinct was that confronting Ben, Lisa, and my parents might provide some form of closure, but I've now resolved to pursue a dramatically different path. Yes, I will face them, but not to shout, weep, or demand explanations. Instead, I desire for them to experience the very same torment I've been drowning in. I crave vengeance. I intend to exact the most thorough retribution conceivable, meticulously adhering to the boundaries of the law. These past days have been dedicated to meticulous planning and unwavering patience. They remain under the illusion that I know nothing, that I am merely the complacent, second-rate daughter and wife who passively accepts everything. Let them cling to that delusion, because in the interim, I've been diligently working in secrecy, amassing irrefutable evidence to substantiate every hushed word I overheard that fateful night. Betrayal inevitably leaves its fingerprints, even when the perpetrators believe they've meticulously erased their tracks, and I am resolute in uncovering every last detail they presumed hidden. First, let me tell you about the baby shower. Yes, there's a baby shower. A few days after my last entry, my mother contacted me, her voice radiating her usual cheerfulness, feigning ignorance of any wrongdoing, as if she hadn't been an active participant in this monumental deceit. She inquired if I would organize Lisa's baby shower, because in my family I'm essentially designated as the chief facilitator. Had the roles been reversed, she would never have burdened Lisa with such a task. Indeed, she wanted me to orchestrate a celebration for the very person who had dismantled my marriage and my life. The sheer audacity left me momentarily speechless, but then a thought crystallized. This could be my perfect leverage. This offered the ideal platform to prepare the stage for what was to come. Naturally, I agreed, ensuring my voice conveyed no hint of my true intentions. Her delight was palpable, almost euphoric. "Lisa will be so happy," she chirped. I smiled into the phone, contemplating precisely how happy Lisa would be when she discovered my true plans for her. Before making my move, I needed to gather every possible piece of corroborating evidence. I became almost consumed by the pursuit of every secret, every message, every shred of proof detailing their actions against me. Night after night, while Ben slept, I systematically went through his phone, his laptop, even his old digital backups. Initially, I harbored doubts, wondering if they had been clever enough to expunge all traces. But people invariably grow complacent when they believe they hold the advantage. The first piece of evidence emerged from a concealed folder on his phone. He believed himself clever, bestowing upon it an innocuous name, but I knew him too intimately. Inside were photographs, images of him with Lisa. It quickly became apparent that this was no isolated incident, but an elaborate affair. Some photos, at first glance, appeared harmless, but others, well, let's just say they unequivocally confirmed the nature of their relationship. My stomach churned with a nauseating mix of disgust and fury as I viewed them. Yet I persevered. In the subsequent nights, I continued my relentless excavation. Text messages, emails, even old social media exchanges. I uncovered conversations between Lisa and Ben dating back months, discussing their careful efforts to ensure my ignorance. Their words stung, yet paradoxically, they also galvanized me. They spoke with such casual disregard, as if I were nothing more than a minor inconvenience in their illicit liaison. But the true bombshell arrived when I discovered messages exchanged between my parents and Lisa. My mother, in particular, had been an active accomplice in maintaining the secrecy. There were discussions about how Ray didn't need to know, and the paramount importance of protecting Lisa's image. Lisa had even forwarded screenshots of these conversations to Ben, reassuring him that our parents were unequivocally on their side and that they had no reason to fear my discovery. Reading it made me physically ill. They showed no concern that I was their own daughter. Their singular focus was Lisa's reputation. I have meticulously preserved everything. Every photograph, every message, every single piece of evidence is now securely stored on my device. I've even created multiple backups, just in case. I will not act impulsively. I will await the perfect moment to strike, perhaps at the baby shower, perhaps later. But I will ensure that when everything unravels, it does so catastrophically. They will have no idea what hit them. Update 2. Approximately a week has elapsed since my last update, and there is so much I need to recount, though I'm uncertain where to begin. The events of yesterday feel almost surreal, like something plucked from a dream, or perhaps a nightmare, depending on whose perspective you adopt. I spent the entire day at Lisa's baby shower, embodying the role of the impeccable hostess, all the while concealing the tempest raging within me. My facade was meticulously constructed: the supportive sister, the cheerful daughter, the dutiful wife. Everyone was there: family, friends, and Lisa's unsuspecting husband, none of whom had any inkling of the storm about to be unleashed. The celebration itself was an extravagant affair, and my mother, predictably, was practically radiating pride, ensuring every detail was flawless for her little Lisa. My parents, blissfully unaware, had no idea that the true gift was yet to come, and it was for me, a gift designed to utterly shatter the carefully built world they had so painstakingly created. I was acutely aware of my heart pounding, my pulse thrumming, not from excitement, but from the raw anticipation of the impending chaos. As the day progressed, I engaged in superficial conversations, feigned laughter at shallow jokes, and arranged the myriad baby gifts piled on the table. The entire time I was intensely conscious of the ticking time bomb drawing closer to its explosion. I watched Lisa, basking in the spotlight, her smile radiant, though I knew it wouldn't last. The longer she believed she had successfully evaded consequences, the more satisfying my revenge would ultimately be. The pivotal moment arrived when they began cutting the cake. Everyone applauded and offered their congratulations, and I felt my pulse quicken even more as I prepared to present Lisa with her special gift. I announced to everyone that it came from the heart, though deep down, I knew it emanated from the very depths of my profound pain. Then I stood to address the assembled guests, and a hush fell over the room. Lisa looked at me with a bright, expectant smile, visibly thrilled, as she reached for the beautifully wrapped box. I had invested considerable effort into its presentation. Exquisite paper, a luxurious bow, all meticulously chosen to cultivate a sense of anticipation, making it appear to be an exceedingly important gift, which of course it was. Everyone clustered around Lisa, eager for a closer look as she began to tear away the wrapping. Inside lay printed photographs, shocking images of her and Ben in deeply compromising situations, intimate moments frozen in time, the kind of pictures no one would ever wish their family to witness. I had painstakingly selected the most incriminating images, those that unequivocally exposed their betrayal with undeniable clarity. Lisa's expression underwent a rapid transformation, shifting from excited anticipation to confusion, and then to unadulterated horror as she fully registered the contents of the box. The atmosphere in the room palpably shifted as people slowly began to grasp the gravity of the situation and the devastating implications of the photographs for everyone involved. Lisa, myself, and my husband. But I wasn't finished. As murmurs erupted and people began directing questions towards either Lisa or me, I unveiled decorative curtains that displayed the very same photos, enlarged and arranged in a stark, impactful display. The truth was now laid bare for everyone to see, a gallery of betrayal, documenting the affair that had decimated my life. Lisa's face became ashen, the color draining from her cheeks, leaving her looking utterly spectral. Her hands trembled uncontrollably as she struggled to comprehend the unfolding disaster. My parents instinctively attempted to intervene, but I was not about to permit them to silence me. I drew a deep breath and allowed the words to flow freely. I exposed the entirety of the affair, meticulously detailing how they had actively assisted in covering it up and how they had maintained a facade of normalcy, while Lisa brazenly betrayed me with my husband. Lisa's husband, utterly thunderstruck, stormed out of the room, his shouts echoing as he called her a traitor and expressed his disbelief at her capacity for such actions. His reaction likely mirrored the raw shock and pain I had experienced when I first uncovered the entire sordid ordeal. My parents were left speechless, utterly incapable of defending their golden child this time. The world they had so painstakingly constructed around Lisa was now crumbling, piece by agonizing piece, as I laid bare the chaos she had orchestrated. Standing there amidst the stunned crowd, I felt an inexplicable sensation, a profound sense of release washing over me. Some individuals approached to offer comfort, but I needed none of that in that moment, for I had accomplished precisely what needed to be done. So, I gathered my belongings and departed. Update 3. 2 weeks have elapsed since my last update, and I believe the commotion has subsided sufficiently for me to share the aftermath of my calculated surprise at the baby shower and the repercussions for all those implicated in the betrayal. That night, immediately after revealing everything and displaying the evidence, I exited the party. I had no desire to engage with anyone or face the reactions of those who, until then, had constituted my family. I remained unaware of the subsequent events until Lisa's friend, now decidedly her ex-friend, contacted me a few days later, seeking answers. She, once one of Lisa's closest confidants, initiated the conversation with a tone that veered between incredulity and utter disgust. She confessed that my exposition had finally opened her eyes to Lisa's true character. In her words, if Lisa could betray her own sister with her husband, what assurance did anyone have that she wouldn't inflict the same treachery upon her? The betrayal she had witnessed at the party had left her with a profound sense of distrust, rendering her unable to sustain a friendship with someone of Lisa's nature. During our conversation, she even sought my advice on how to discreetly investigate her own husband, wanting to ensure he wasn't concealing a similar infidelity. I counseled her to meticulously examine his social media, text messages, and any suspicious conversations on his phone. I also made it clear that if she unearthed anything significant, I would be eager for her to share it, knowing many of you would also wish to be informed. But that wasn't all she imparted. Apparently, after my departure, the venue transformed into a full-fledged battleground. Lisa's husband's family was present, and once they fully comprehended the situation, a torrent of shouting and accusations erupted. Lisa's parents-in-law, furious as they were disappointed, hurled venomous words and insults at her for her actions. My father, clinging to whatever vestiges of dignity he possessed, attempted to intervene and defend his daughter, asserting that Lisa was pregnant and therefore should not be spoken to in such a manner. However, Lisa's father-in-law was unyielding, retorting that their dear daughter was nothing short of a harlot of Babylon. Let's just say he employed a far cruder term. That scathing remark struck my father like a dagger, and he lunged at Lisa's father-in-law, intent on physical confrontation. It did not end favorably for him. Lisa's father-in-law landed a single, decisive punch that sent my father to the ground. He didn't lose consciousness, but remained on the floor, either from sheer humiliation or the paralyzing fear of receiving another blow. The men weren't the only ones willing to resort to violence. Lisa's mother-in-law, incandescent with rage over the entire sordid affair, began to verbally assault my mother, who, in turn, did not hold back, retorting by calling Lisa's father-in-law a gorilla for striking her husband. This provocation caused the other woman to lunge at my mother. The scene was brutal. I was told Lisa's mother-in-law pulled my mother's hair so fiercely that others had to forcibly separate them. My mother ended up losing a substantial chunk of hair, and someone even jokingly suggested she might consider a wig. Some guests valiantly tried to quell the escalating fight, eventually managing to restore a semblance of calm before the situation spiraled further out of control. I must admit, deep down, a faint pang of regret surfaces for not having remained at the party to witness the full fallout of my gift. It's akin to that feeling you get when you miss school on the most momentous day of the year. However, despite the curiosity, I know leaving was unequivocally the best decision for my own peace of mind, allowing me to avoid entanglement in the shame and raw chaos. Surprisingly, Lisa emerged from the situation physically unharmed, not because she didn't deserve a harsher consequence, but because of her pregnancy. Everyone present, even the most enraged, exercised enough self-control to refrain from physical violence against her. Although there's a significant possibility the baby she's carrying is my husband's, it remains that the child is not responsible for its mother's deceitful and treacherous character. Update 4. regarding my ex-husband, or more accurately, my soon-to-be ex-husband, developments have progressed considerably. I served him with the divorce papers as swiftly as I could get them processed. He managed to escape a punch during the party, likely because he had the good sense to remain silent and attempt to vanish into the crowd. He kept his head down, appearing to strive for invisibility, a strategy that seemingly worked as he dodged Lisa's father-in-law's fist, a blow he undoubtedly deserved more than anyone else, especially given the father-in-law's readiness to throw one. Later, upon his return home, he discovered all his belongings unceremoniously strewn across the lawn. I had left nothing of his inside. Everything was on the grass, awaiting his comprehension of the message. He didn't utter a single word or attempt to knock on the door to speak with me. He simply collected his possessions and departed. At least he grasped the implication. Now, we await the resolution regarding the house once the divorce is finalized. In the past 2 weeks, neither my sister nor my parents have attempted to contact me, not to apologize nor to lash out, which, frankly, comes as no surprise. Despite being the individual most profoundly affected by this entire ordeal, aside from my father's public humiliation, they possess neither the shame nor the remorse to reach out. This merely reaffirms what I have always suspected. To them, Lisa will always be the priority, regardless of her actions. This betrayal and public shaming, while catastrophic in its immediate impact, seemingly falls short of compelling them to introspection. My entire life has been a quest for acceptance within my family, a yearning to be seen and valued. But these events have unequivocally demonstrated that such a place will never materialize for me. No matter how deeply they wound me or betray my trust, I will consistently remain the daughter they can effortlessly overlook. Moving on, I find immense satisfaction in that old adage. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that, precisely, is what eventually happened to my ex-husband. But let me not get ahead of myself and instead share the progression of events over the past few months. It turns out that Lisa's now ex-friend, whom I aided in her investigation, indeed discovered that her husband was also engaged in an affair with my sister. As you can imagine, she confronted him immediately. During their heated argument, the friend mentioned that my ex was also entangled in this whole messy situation. What did her husband do? Without uttering a single word, he went straight to my sister's house, where she was living with my ex, believing the baby she was expecting was his. What transpired next was, without exaggeration, the most satisfying part. The man delivered a direct punch to my ex's face. So, despite his adept avoidance of a punch at the baby shower, he finally received his just deserts. Predictably, my ex has opted to sue him over the assault, though I'm not privy to the details of that legal matter, and honestly, I'm not particularly invested. As for Lisa's husband, he vacated their shared home the moment he uncovered the full truth and immediately filed for divorce. That divorce remains in progress, likely prolonged by the involvement of a child. My own divorce, conversely, was finalized about a month ago. For those curious about assets, the house we shared was sold, and the proceeds were split equally. Neither of us is obligated to pay spousal support, and since there were no children, the process was remarkably straightforward. I believe the swift resolution of my divorce only amplified the perception of the eternal, messy chaos that engulfed my sister's life. Reverting to my ex-husband, after receiving that satisfying blow to the face, he also endured an emotional shock upon learning he might not be the father of my sister's baby. In an ironic twist of fate, he too decided to move out of my sister's house, unable to tolerate the notion that she might have cheated on him. This aspect elicits a laugh from me, though it also prompts me to ponder the peculiar logic inherent in infidelity, particularly among individuals like them. How can someone so readily betray their own partner with another person then feel wounded when that same person betrays them? Perhaps I simply fail to comprehend jealousy in such a context, given that, fortunately, I consider myself a decent person who has never felt the inclination to betray someone in such a manner. The sheer hypocrisy in him is so blatant, it borders on comical. But the situation continues to unfold, leading to an unexpected development. My sister's baby has been born, and as you'd anticipate, a DNA test was conducted immediately. It unequivocally confirmed that my ex is not the father. The baby is, in fact, the child of Lisa's ex-friend's husband, who you'll recall also filed for divorce upon discovering the affair. What truly astonishes me is that despite this man being the confirmed father, there could very plausibly have been other candidates, given my sister's behavior and her handling of this entire debacle. It wouldn't surprise me if additional contenders in the paternity matter emerged. Honestly, considering my parents and sister, this level of absurdity feels entirely normal for them. This is merely another Tuesday in their lives. The constant deluge of chaos and drama they inhabit is so routine that they barely seem to register the sheer absurdity of the situation. And no, neither my parents nor my sister have attempted to contact me since. However, this time, and only this once, I will extend them the benefit of the doubt, thinking that perhaps it's not that they don't care about me as a daughter or sister. They're probably just too preoccupied dealing with the monumental disaster they've meticulously created for themselves. Update 5. First, allow me to clarify something, as it seems some listeners didn't quite catch the sarcasm in my previous update. When I mentioned giving my family the benefit of the doubt, I was indeed being entirely sarcastic. No, I do not believe they have ever genuinely cared, and even if a scandal of this magnitude hadn't erupted, they still wouldn't have bothered to reach out. Moving on to the latest developments, my sister has ultimately relocated back into our parents' house. Why? Well, the biological father of her baby decided not to remain with her, and while he himself has been unfaithful, I can certainly understand his decision. Staying with someone as untrustworthy as my sister sounds more like a perpetual punishment than any form of reward. So, alone and with a newborn, she returned to the only place where she still seems to be welcomed with open arms, our parents' home. As for my sister's divorce, it concluded in a remarkably favorable outcome for my ex-brother-in-law. The house they shared was sold, and he is not obligated to pay either child support or spousal support. I believe this represented the ideal scenario for him. He can now completely detach himself from this entire mess, free from any financial or personal entanglements with my sister. It's as if life handed him a one-way ticket out, and I cannot envision a more fitting resolution for him. Lisa's ex-friend has also finalized her divorce. In terms of finding peace and perhaps tallying the symbolic punches, things appear to have settled down. However, with everything that has transpired, it remains evident that many individuals in this convoluted story still richly deserve another metaphorical punch. For the time being, the physical skirmishes have ceased, but the memories will undoubtedly remain etched into the minds of everyone involved, and some, quite literally, on their faces.